name's Sam Hamilton, and I've been working with Hounslow on a few projects over the last 12 months. One of the very interesting projects I found is our kind of journey through waste. So I'm quite excited today to be able to share with you a couple of examples of online services that we've managed to deliver, also on the Jadu platform. So, smarter online services. I think it's fair to say the first three we give now should be really a given these days. Also resident friendly, so a focus there really on trying to keep things easy to use online and trying to reduce those kind of abandonment rates that you might get for something that might be slightly overcomplicated online. We always want to try and reduce the back office administration where possible, and also a big one with a big impact on cost as well is the avoidable contacts. Okay, so just to fire a few statistics at you, we've found since we've implemented our missed bin form that 60% of residents don't actually go through to actually submit a missed bin. They're actually stopped during the process because of information we found in the back office, which actually means this isn't actually a missed bin. This is actually, we didn't collect your bin for a particular reason. We'll go through to take a look at that shortly. And also the opportunity there where we've informed the resident as well. So we haven't just said, we're not accepting your request. We're actually telling them why and then what they can do after as well. And this statistic comes from one of Bartek's customers, Exeter Council. And what Exeter do is slightly different to what a lot of councils that I've seen do, is that they actually force their customers to have a look at their bin collection schedule before they attempt to report a missed bin. And they found by doing this that actually 30% of the residents actually abandon the actual process at that point. So almost a good statistic to show that potentially a resident thinking that their bin has been missed, they actually might have got the wrong bin out, for example, or got the wrong day. I thought it might be useful just to show you a quick video that Bartek have provided, just to give you a flavour for what actually happens with the bin crews when they're actually going out around the district or around the boroughs making the collections, just for a bit of background information. Okay, so I think two of the important parts of that video really is Bartek providing the back office waste management system, but importantly coupled with the in-cab devices, so that when the crews are going out and making the collections, they're able to then update the back office system in real time. And that kind of leads us on to look at some of the technology, just a quick look at what's under the hood. So we have Bartek with a waste management system, which I've split out slightly to show the Bartek API. So with the in-cab devices being able to update the back office system in real time, from our forms, for example, with Jadu XFP or from the CMS with widgets, we're able to then interrogate the live data held in back office. So kind of the majority of the work that had actually gone into what I'm about to show kind of comes in this area here between the Bartek API and between Jadu. Okay, so back to the resident and when are my bins going to be collected? What you're seeing here is just one of the Jadu home pages on our website, and we have embedded a widget that we have created to show the bin collection schedules. So there's a little bit of information up front to the resident about when to put bins out, etc. And all the resident has to do is to provide their postcode, which then looks at their address, and quite simply it presents them with their schedule. So essentially the resident has got what they've come for. If the resident wasn't subscribed for garden waste, they wouldn't see that. This schedule of results is specific to the property that has been entered. Because this data's all come back in real time from the back office, if there's been any amendments to the schedules, for example due to bad weather, or it could be a bank holiday, that's automatically reflected on the schedules the resident sees on the website as well. We're also making it a bit simpler for the resident to view as well. For example, you can't see very well, but this is actually a red, green and blue recycling box collection, which are actually all separate jobs in the system. So what we do is we just group them together. What we can also do on top of it is that if this week's collection has already been completed, we can show that to the resident by just checking that status in the back office. Yes, those jobs have been completed, we just give them a green tick. But we can also go one further again, and we can check to see if there's any reasons for non-collection of that job in back office as well. So, for example, here we see the food waste bin was not left out, so we're able to actually just present that back to the resident when they look at the schedule. So that was the bin collection day finder, and that was a Jadu widget. So moving on to an XFP form that we built for reporting a missed bin. Okay, so just the front page of the form, which leads on to our address lookup for the property. So Siraj mentioned single point address lookup earlier. That's what we're using from the integrations hub to get our addresses. And the next step is to simply ask the resident which service they believe has been missed. So two very basic pieces of information there. And it's at that point we know everything we need to know to go and make some checks in the back office in real time to inform what we want to do in terms of what we want to where we want to signpost or branch the resident. So I've headed this as intelligent checking, or you could call it validations equally. So at that point, we're able to check to ensure that the property or the parent property, if it's potentially a high-rise apartment, to check that it actually has the service that the resident is trying to report. For garden waste, we can actually check if the property is registered for the current year's garden waste subscription. If it is, then great, it will move on to the next step. But we can also check to see if it was subscribed to last year's also, so potentially someone who might have forgot to renew their subscription. So there's a good opportunity there which we can use to, when we detect that, to try and push residents to subscribe to the current years if they haven't already. We can also check for any non-collection events that have been logged by the crew. So essentially what we're trying to find here is any residents trying to report their bin as missed when it's actually been intentionally not collected. Okay, and lastly, we also check to ensure that it's not a duplicate report of the missed bin. So potentially somebody who could have rang it through the contact centre or tried to do it twice online. But one of the really important points with the duplicates is that if the bin which actually services the property is a shared bin, then you could have potentially 10, 100 residents trying to report that one bin has been missed. So by checking for duplicate reports at the parent property, we can actually say if apartment 1A has reported that the recycling bin has been missed, and then also apartment 43B also tries to report it, it will only let that very first report go through to back office. And we'll see a little bit about how we put things back through to the back office in a moment. Okay, so let's take an example of what would happen in the form if the driver had logged the bin on his in-cab device as not at Kirtledge. I think I'm saying that right. Because the resident has basically not left their bin out, we're actually preventing them from proceeding in the form. And we're not just saying, no, sorry, you can't report your missed bin. We're actually using some of that data available to us in the back office. So we're providing them the reason and the time the crew visited and telling them that why the bin wasn't collected, and also changing that name of Kirtledge to something a bit more friendly, just saying the bin was not in the right place. And then it goes on to say, we will collect your recycling bin on the next scheduled date, which is, and on here it says Thursday the 5th of October, but it will actually tell them the actual new scheduled date for that collection. So the resident there's got a decision to make there. Do they want to wait for the next collection to take place? And it just gives them some other options there as well, in terms of they can pay £50 for another collection, or they can visit their local recycling sites where they can take the rubbish themselves as well. If all of the conditions are met, then we trust the resident generally just have a missed bin. And so they can continue through the form to provide their basic contact details, so just their title, name, surname, email address and telephone number. If the resident is signed in through My Account, they'll be auto-populated, making it even easier for the resident. And that is the last step in the form. Essentially they have the reference number. So if we're sat there looking in the back office, this is just a quick example of a service request that's sat there in the back office. But what's important here is what we can do with this service request. So for missed bins, we have options available to us through Bartech. So they can create automations that happen and that are triggered once a service request is received. So in this example, it's creating a job which is then put into a work pack and assigned to a crew to go and actually collect that missed bin. And there's a 48-hour SLA tied to that as well. So from the resident submitting the form, ultimately the crew on their in-cab device has the job there to go and collect the bin without anybody else getting involved in between. One of the last steps would be when the driver actually goes to collect the missed bin and actually marks that in his in-cab device as completed. So this is something we're looking to introduce quite soon, where a resident is potentially signed into a CRM or case management system like CXM, that we're actually able to notify the resident that the job's been completed either if they're logged in or by sending them an email, for example, when it's been done. That way, that's kind of closing the loop in terms of the integrations are concerned. Which leads us quite nicely onto integrations. Siraj, I know you mentioned it earlier, there's some partnership working happening at the moment with Bartek to bring some standardised integrations into XFP.
That's right,
Yeah, and I think that's it.
Thank you very much.